Hello, Mallards. It is Thursday, and I don't have anything particularly interesting to talk about. Today I blogged, I worked on some Phoenix Tears stuff. I made a brief journey out of my home to drop off some fabric and a pattern for the bridesmaid's dress I am wearing to Megan Amanda's wedding. And I started the Zoom call for Witches Recording, and we watched some episodes of a show, and I watched some episodes of a show with Mel, and I watched an unfortunate, I guess for me a very fortunate, but for the world at large probably an unfortunate amount of TikTok, which I enjoyed greatly, but which doesn't necessarily make for great watching with you. Unless I do that thing that I did previously where I watched 5 TikToks on my For You page and then talked about them. But instead, I suppose I'm going to talk about the show that we are currently 4 episodes into. So we watched 1 episode the other day, and now we've watched 3 more. And that show is The Woman in the House Across the Street from the Girl in the Window. It is a Netflix series starring Kristen Bell is a dark comedy, sort of farcical about all of those, like Girl on the Train, Woman in the Window, that kind of crime genre where an unreliable narrator sees something that they want to prove is true and no one will believe them, and we're not sure if we believe them, but just taken to extremes, like serious extremes. And the premise is that this woman, whose name is Anna, her daughter has died, and her husband have broken up as a result of that. And then she meets this new neighbor, his name is Neil, whose wife died, and he has a daughter who would be the same age that like her daughter was when she died. And so she thinks they're really sweet. And then it turns out that Neil has a girlfriend he didn't mention, surprise. And then she sees that girlfriend get murdered, or at least that's what she thinks. And now the whole rest of the series, I assume, is her just trying to figure out if that's true. And we're not sure if we believe her. And there is a lot of mystery wrapped up in it, as there should be for this kind of show. But what makes it absolutely absurd is that it's just everything that's a part of that genre, but like cranked up to 10. Starting with drinking wine is a big trope in that, but instead of having a glass of wine, she has a glass of wine. Like comically fills every wine glass to the very tippy top every time, which is hilarious. She has a therapist who is terrible, who she only talks to on the phone and also hangs up on a lot. She has a fear of the rain, and so when she goes out in the rain, she ends up passing out because like it was raining the day that her daughter died. And like all of the ominous music is really cranked up. All of the way that the scenes are shot is really just over the top, like even more dramatic than it would be in a horror thing. But what gets us really is the voiceover narration that happens. It's all more than it needs to be, in the same way that the title of the show is The Woman in the House Across the Street from the Girl in the Window, which is a lot of words that are completely unnecessary. Almost every time she does a voiceover narration, it is also unnecessary. And she also just adds in a lot of stuff. And I'm not sure if they gave all of this to Kristen Bell when they give her the script, or if instead she just builds on every little bit, because it does a lot of that sort of, my husband always said that I was this, and 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 also this, and this, and also that. Like, and just pushes it like beyond what you're expecting, just like that extra kick. And she did a voiceover when she was trying to decide if it was worth it to break into her neighbor's house to find out if he actually killed his girlfriend. She was like, really had to evaluate whether or not it was worth the risk, you know? Because I could be risking a lot. It's a really, really big risk to take. But if I don't take that risk and I choose to instead risk nothing, well, if I risk nothing, then I would never find the truth. And if I never find the truth, then really, I'm risking everything. And just like, yeah, I would have to find the exact quote, but it's absolutely absurd. And it all builds like that. The other characters that are there are not quite as absurd as the baker in that Christmas Hallmark film we watched, who is actually every side character in that particular Christmas film were the most absurd people that we have ever encountered. But these side characters are also pretty crazy and eccentric, and just the way that they all interact is just super over the top tropey. And I definitely couldn't get a read on this show after the first episode, but now that we're 4 episodes deep, I really love it. And I would absolutely recommend it. If you got to enjoy dark comedy, because it is pretty dark. And you also need to have at least a passing knowledge of the genre they're trying to poke fun at. Or I feel like a lot of it will just drag out and not be as funny to you. Although Kristen Bell works her hardest to make it all pretty hilarious. And that's what I did with my day. Now I'm going to go to bed and do probably even less tomorrow.